Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a live presentation. Today, I'm going to do the watercolor lifting technique. So in this technique, you take and add additional water and remove it from certain areas of your card. I think you're really going to enjoy this technique. And I am Donna Goodwin. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Brookings, South Dakota. And let's see, last week we did an alcohol wash that looks kind of like a watercolor wash. This card during the live went out to Brenda, and for those of you who came back in and liked, commented, and shared during that, this particular card that I have in my hand is going out to Paula. So congratulations, ladies. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, here's a better view of the watercolor lifting technique. I applied, and I'll show you all this step by step, about 20 to 30 minutes here this morning on Tuesday, May 23rd. We're going to apply some really intense. I chose dark colors this time so that it would show up better for you. So we're going to put a really good dark layer of ink on some watercolor paper, and then we're going to come back after we've embossed, and I chose white embossing powder again just so it stands out a little bit better and easier to see during the video. And then we're going to lift some of that dark blue out to get the light blue color. So it's just one version of a water lifting technique. So before I do get started on that, however, I want to give a shout out to Eileen. Eileen sent me this beautiful gatefold card using the Designer Series paper that was available during Celebration in January and February. And this looks like two-tone flora. The cardstock is some really pretty textured cardstock. I don't know if you can see it in here, that she picked up at Hobby Lobby, but just a pretty card. So thank you so much for sending that to me, Eileen. Now, I have chose to demonstrate this card using the Cheerful Daisies. It's a stamp set that does come with bundled dies. So the dies, you have dies that cut out this flower and then a detail that goes into that as well. Same thing with this one and these and this one with details that go into those. A banner to do your sentiments. Good morning, Vicki. And then another die that just does something separate. And then you've got the dies for the centers and the leaves, and one extra little kind of ferny leaf. So it's a fun die set. We're not using the dies today, but it's a wonderful bundle that's in the catalog. You won't need to write these measurements down because they're in the description. You'll need a card base that measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. I have chose Granny Apple Green. Now, my live announcement showed the blueberry bushel, but I decided that was a bit too much blue, so I switched it up to green. You'll need some watercolor paper or multimedia paper. This happens to be multimedia paper. Where did I buy this? I like this because it's thinner and easier to work with than necessarily the Stampin' Up! Paper. The Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper takes a lot of water, but it's also really thick and heavy. This is probably from Walmart, but you can find in any of the box stores, you can find multimedia paper. I have one piece that measures 2.5 inches and by 2.5 inches, and 3 pieces that measure 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to set those aside for a moment. I matted them in Pebbled Path, which is one of the new in colors. And this one measures 2 5/8 by 2 5/8, and then 3 pieces that measure 1 5/8 by 1 5/8, or just a smidge larger than the pieces that we're going to work on. A piece of basic white that's 4 by 5 1/4 inches for the inside of our card. And another piece of basic white that measures 3/4 of an inch by 2 3/4 of an inch for our sentiment. Okay, ink colors. We're going to work with Versamark for our embossing in white embossing powder, our sentiments in Real Red, and then on the inside, I can't find my blueberry bushel, so I made myself a blueberry bushel spot. We're going to use blueberry bushel and just a little bit of lemon lime green for the center of our card, just to give the center kind of a greenish yellow color instead of a normal yellow color. Whoops, I want this to stay here. And then I'm going to use the ink refiller of blueberry bushel. So let's start by laying some color onto these. So I just happen to have a tile block from the hardware store. It works great for this technique. Works for anything where you need to use some color. So I'm going to bring myself in a paper towel because I'm about to make a mess. And I had it handy, and of course now there it is. I'm going to just use my silicone mat underneath it to protect my desktop here. So I'm going to add a few drops more. Just by adding water to that, I can pick that up and reactivate it. And then I have the old aqua painters. It just depends on whatever you want to use. You could use a watercolor brush and a bowl of water. I'm just going to add a few drops. You can see it's pretty intense and dark color. And I'm going to wash right over this. And I'm going to leave it really dark and intense so that when we lift the color later, this darker background will really make it stand out. So I'm just going to go all over the whole thing. And set that one aside. We'll do all 4 of them. I did a card back in March where instead of lifting directly in spots like we're doing here with the flower, we embossed in clear and then pulled the ink off and let the color underneath the clear embossing powder stay dark. However, I did use kind of pastel-y colors, so it wasn't as dramatic. And I'll put a link to that in the description after the video is over. Or excuse me, this is not a video, this is a live. So please do like, comment, and share. And at the end, after questions and answers, so if you have questions, please do ask them. And I'll get to those in the end. And then to clean this off, I'm just going to squeeze it until it runs clear. Or mostly clear. And then I would set, excuse me, then I would set these aside to dry. Now I have some that I did yesterday that have already dried. So I'm going to bring those in. Since this is a photopolymer stamp, I'm going to use my foam mat. Excuse me. And I'm going to stamp in Versamark, and then we're going to emboss in white embossing powder. So I'm going to use the large daisy on this 2.5 by 2.5 inch piece. And I'm using the outlines for these. And I don't even care if they're in there perfect or what direction that they go. And we'll add some white embossing powder to these. Now I didn't use my embossing buddy on this, but I will let you know that I rubbed the embossing buddy on it prior to starting the live to keep the static of the embossing powder out. so that I have embossing powder simply on my flowers. I'm making quite a mess here. Sometimes it's fun to get messy. Now I would heat emboss those, but I already did some ahead of time. And I pulled the color off of these 3 small ones just to save us some time. So you can see when you pull the color off, it gets light, but the background stays intense. And then we have just a little bit more to do on this one. So bring in that silicone mat, or you could use foil or anything to protect your surface from the water. And another paper towel. And this time I'm going to add water to my leaves. I want to control where the color's lifting off of. So I'm just putting some water on there, and then I'm just going to blot it. And that took some of the color out. Oh, camera's trying to catch up. That took some of the color out, but I'll just keep working until I get as much color out as I want out. And depending on how much lighter you want this to be, you just keep working on it and working on it and working on it till you get as much of it out as you want. So you just keep adding water. I'm getting a frog in my throat this morning. The blotting just kind of speeds up the process. You could sit here and pull it out this way and then rub it off over here. That just takes a lot longer. So don't forget to ask your questions as we go along. So there's all of our pieces of the watercolor lifting, pulling them out so that we have light blue here and dark blue around the outside edge. So we're really highlighting the flower on this. And if you wanted to, you could come back in with maybe a dark yellow and stamp the centers. I opted just to leave it the way it is. So for our inside, I'm going to stamp the background with blueberry bushel stamped off. Of course, you know, as soon as this live is over with, I'll find the big ink pad of blueberry bushel, because that's just how that works, right? So I'm going to stamp off with that to make it a little bit lighter. I think we'll put it in the right corner this time. And then I'll come back in with that detail and do it full strength. I have thrown everyone off by switching the day this week, haven't I? And then let's do our center in Lemon Lime Twist. Again, stamping off, because I just wanted a hint of green in my center instead of yellow. And then we'll do our sentiment in real red. I have 6 of you watching me this morning. and 3 of you brave enough to comment. I chose wishing you the brightest birthday, and I'm not going to put a sentiment on the inside until I know exactly who I'm going to send it to. If I can do this without getting my head in the camera. And now we can put our card together. And I'm just going to notch this one. So I'm going to glue my 4 pieces onto my pebbled path mat. So I want to say good morning to Vicki and Brenda and Sue and Mary for joining me during the live presentation. And if you happen to be joining during replay, welcome. And we have Pamela. Pamela's new. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, Pamela. Welcome, welcome. And don't forget to queue up your questions. When I'm done assembling this card, I'll answer any of your questions. They don't have to be about this card. And then after the questions and answers, we'll do the live giveaway. So if you like what I'm doing and like what you see, please do like, comment, and share it with your friends. You can find me on my webpage. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, all under the title Winged Horse Designs. And apparently I have the dropsies today. So how about if we do a general question? I told all of you that I'm from Brookings, South Dakota. How about if you tell me where you're watching from? And that way each of you can get to know each other a little bit better as well. So I'm going to glue my inside in. And I'm going to glue the big one down flat and then pop all the rest up with dimensionals. And I think I want this side. I have to think about what's going to show the most and what's going to get hidden. And I think I want this part to show. I probably don't need this many dimensionals, but I kind of like my cards to stay put. Okay, I see a couple good questions popping in. Now when I put dimensional on this one, I'm only going to put it on the notch side, and then this side I'm going to put glue down because it's already going to be sitting on top of a piece that's lifted up. So now we'll just add these other 3 pieces in. Kind of randomly, any direction we want. And let's go, say there with that one. And I think that's a good spot for that one. And I'm not necessarily going for a symmetrical design, but I'm going to kind of do the same type of border down here with this one that I did up here with the big one. And since this is going to be sitting over the top of this, we're just going to use a little bit of glue to anchor it down. And no card's complete without bling, correct? This is the Tinsel Gems. Comes in 4 different colors: Shaded Spruce, Blueberry Bushel, I forget, and Lemon Lime Twist. Do I have? Oh, I take that back. That's not Shaded Spruce. Pretty Peacock, Berry Burst, Blueberry Bushel, Lemon Lime Twist. I'm going to use the Lemon Lime Twist because I just like the way the Lemon Lime Twist actually looks on the Granny Apple Green. And there you have a fast and easy watercolor lifting card. So let me switch cameras here real quick and we'll address all of those questions. All right, so if you're on YouTube, you can't see Facebook, and if you're on Facebook, you can't see those on YouTube. So Vicki is here. Brenda is here. She says she almost forgot. I really threw her off. She was ready for me yesterday, and then I changed it to today. Susan is here. Mary is here. Pamela is new to us, so welcome, Pamela. Vicki is here in Brookings with me. Mary is in Door County, Wisconsin. Oh, you came back north for the summer. Good. Sue is also in Brookings. Pamela is watching us from way north in Ontario. Are you close to the wildfires up there in Ontario, Pamela? Okay, questions. I missed the beginning. Did you use watercolor cardstock? I'm actually using multimedia paper that I picked up at the box store, the department store. You can find it at any kind of hobby store, or here in the United States, we can find it at Walmart. And I think I bought this one at my local Walmart, but I like multimedia paper so that you can use anything. You can use watercolor, you can use markers, you can use whatever you like. And I prefer it over the Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper because the Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper is really heavy, and this is just easier for me to work with, but it's whatever your choice is. And Brenda, you feel like you should ask a question. How soggy does it make your paper? It depends on how much water you add. I did not add a lot of water to this paper because I wanted the color to be very intense for the beginning of the outline. It's The wetter the paper, the longer it takes to dry, that's all. And if you need it in a hurry and you can't wait for a couple of hours or a day for it to dry, just simply use your heat tool and speed dry it. Susan, another pretty card. She enjoys seeing different techniques. Later, after the live is over with, I'll go in and add a link to the last watercolor lifting card that I did, although I like this card much better. I think it's a nicer version. Oh no. That could be a good thing if you're talking about the wildfires, and hopefully they're over. We've had a lot of the smoke from them the last few days, so it looks like that's kind of the slowness of it. So I'm going to queue up the drawing, and we'll see who's going to get this card. Let me get that started. There's 5 of you here who have made comments, and it takes comments for this particular picker to pull. So I'm going to wait maybe 5 seconds for you to just type in any kind of a comment, and then it'll pull you up. But I see there's 5 of you watching right now, and there's 5 entries. So that's probably the end of it. So I will go ahead and click on the draw. We'll see who's going to get this card. Vicki. So congratulations, Vicki. I'll get this out in the mail to you. So I hope you really enjoyed this card. I really enjoyed making this card. I love the brightness of the colors for the summer. So I probably am going to be making a few more of these. I have, you can't see the mess, but I have little stacks of pieces in stages drying all over the craft room. So have a wonderful week, everyone. I will be live on Monday, Memorial Day at 10 o'clock, and I promise no life things are going to get in the way. I will be here at 10 a.m. Central Time next Monday. So have a wonderful week, everyone. Oh, one more thing before I say goodbye. I will be live again at noon today over on a crafters collaboration with my friend Teresa. We're doing a sign language interpretive card using the brand new Earth and Textures stamp set. So I hope you'll bop over there to a crafters collaboration on Facebook and join us at noon. Happy trails, everyone.